Guru Dorjee Hyona Medeve Jendo Chawada Timba Drugin Bezo Dorjee Tejan Dele Yo Zoje Beje Joje Medo Dhamma Dera Nishe Nide Jembande Sanje Yendo Mede Guma Yen Rokwe Namda Kinla Shebara Jo Yedaman Guru Rana Mandela Kane Daya Me Sanje Chedan Soje Chona Shancho Barada Dane Shasuchi Dage Kike Jebe Sonam Dola Peje Sanje Robara Jo Sanje Chedan Soje Chona Shancho Barada Dane Shasuchi Dage Kike Jebe Sonam Dola Peje Sanje Robara Jo Sanje Chedan Soje Chona Shancho Barada Dane Shasuchi Dage Kike Jebe Sonam Dola Peje Sanje Robara Jo Ola zo majona gitada yembe singe tanje jitendo tojala na me pa yanda ba zobe sanje je kumbano bo yikene je tobra shago te tobra shawe cheto abe kero bo je senya be kono sanje je semchi ze sembe gone sempre sho
Let us all cultivate the altruistic motivation, seeking complete enlightenment for the sake of liberating infinite, kind, mother sentient beings. With that kind of altruistic motivation, we call bodhicitta motivation or bodhisattva's attitude, that we should all participate in this teaching. I believe that all of us are interested in cultivating dharma or spirituality in order to bring about the fulfillment of temporary purpose of this life as well as the ultimate purpose of all our future lives. In other words, what I'm trying to get across to you is this, that all of us are same in that we want to be free from suffering and its causes. We don't want any kind of suffering as well as the causes which bring us pain and suffering. We are also same in that we want lasting peace and happiness and the causes which can bring us lasting peace and happiness. And in order to fulfill these two types of wish, if you will, that we have, I believe that we are interested in cultivating spirituality, or we are interested in the spiritual development. I believe that if we reflect on our own life experiences or what we encounter in our everyday life, there are a lot of those things which are, so to speak, what we call manifest phenomena, or right in front of our eyes or under our nose. In other words, we go through a lot of difficulties and pains in our everyday life, then these are not something hidden or concealed or something secret or mystery from us.
So that Aling Tambotele. That's in Dilly, and it's in the tall, and around the devil, the Kibo, Kandiji showing in Tati, Sunsaki, a chain of a Jukarish, rank zebra, sabres, some that thing never something.
We experience good things in life as well as bad things or unwanted problems in our life. So what I feel is really important for us to consider is what are the causes which bring us both goodness in life as well as bad things in our life.
That is Chamalo around the Tinchin Zombatang. Draw Zambo Yabata, Tendegi change any genre some the West.
So do you think that the good things happening in our life, these are basically because of being with good companions or good friends?
That Tenzu any that change of it is that Jutavate. The devil the devil send the devil the devil unity, do the devil any sinking unit in Sayores.
Good friends and good companions, they are what we call good conditioning factors. They are not the real causes of the good things happening in our life. Or if we have certain amount of happiness in our life, it's not because of them so much. Yes, they have provided favorable conditions, but the real underlying cause of our happiness or the goodness in our life is basically positive karmic actions or the good karmas that we ourselves create and accumulate, in relation to other people and other sentient beings.
So that unless Rang the Shawang Hama, Sinki Yin and Nezi Pam, never is a pam. And the Pemba the David can't do to the Shabatita, Run Debut Jiwing Zawa, Savin Zawa there is.
The main karmic, or the main, how should I say, metaphorically speaking, the seeds which ripen and bring goodness in our life, which includes happiness, I believe are the positive actions that we ourselves did in our previous lives. In our previous lives, that we abandoned harming others, or we, we did not hurt or harm others. But we engage in beneficial actions which would promote the betterment of others or benefit others. So as a result of those karmas that we ourselves created in our past lives, I believe that we experience, all the good things in our life.
They were the chain of a chain long shirt and draw that and doing that the Jewish told the recommend was the better Hindish of a child.
So what I'm trying to explain here are these two things. What are the primary causes of the things going well in our life, and what are the primary causes of things going wrong in our life? And what are the conditioning factors? Okay, so the Tibetan terms we use is Yu is the primary cause, and Tien would be the conditioning factors. Okay. Yes, good friends, good companions, maybe good environment, good location. Yes, these are contributing factors. We call conditioning factors, but these aren't the real. These are not the real causes of things, good things happening in our life. But the real causes of all those good things, or the bad things for that matter, happening in our life are the good and bad karmic actions that we ourselves have created and accumulated. Having said that, I must also clarify this point that those good conditioning factors are also the result of good karmas that we have created. It's not like the conditioning factors happen just by chance or random, just out of fluke, somehow these good favorable conditions pop up. That's not what it is. Yes, these favorable conditioning factors are also related with the good things we ourselves did.
Sendela rang thola ani mundu per dunghe tang ne dunghe ne gnar ne ki me tsigwa de kyu chawa ta ta ne ge pena jungwe chen ge rang le mundu ba shong tang ani ya ne nda ba kre ta de ge ta mang bu ji ka dunghe mang bu ji yung gu ya ba che cha den zu shong sa de ya chen de kar res ge de chen yin du sin zam tong de wa shi.
So we face a lot of difficulties and problems in our life. Many forms of problems. As a matter of fact, we suffer from all different kinds of illnesses or sickness, or maybe the problems are due to what we call natural disasters. Maybe it's because of the destruction by fire, or destruction by floods of the water, or destruction by tornadoes of the winds, whatever the case may be, So what are the real causes, with regard to our experience of difficulties, within those situations or environments? So we believe that sufferings that we experience under those different circumstances are basically because of negative karmas or harmful actions that we ourselves performed and accumulated in the past lives in relation to other sentient beings, because we harmed them, because we destroyed things belonging to them and so forth. So as a result, now we experience difficulties in our life, and they may manifest in the forms of natural calamities. So what I'm really trying to get across to you is this, that in an ordinary sense, we might attribute our suffering to those as if the external factors, because of the floods, because of the tornadoes, because of, something happened in the nature that basically has destroyed our lives and property and all those things. But underneath it all, yes, those are unfavorable conditioning factors. But the real cause of suffering that we experience under those different conditions or circumstances is basically the negative karmic actions, which include harming others, that we ourselves did, in the past. So because we seek happiness, we seek goodness, we seek well-being, therefore we must not harm or do anything that hurts or harms others, because these harmful actions bring, the negative results that we don't want. And because we want happiness in our life, peace in our life, we want happiness in others' life, peace in others' life. So what we really need to learn to do is to cultivate love and compassion and altruism. So out of these positive states of mind or attitudes, we should try to help others, benefit others, do the things which are beneficial to others.
Rakibrans be Tenzin Dorjee, Yen never she, the Nevin David the Ran Duhinjo, Sunga Sonsa, Rakibrans be Tenzin the pay, the pap Pantuas, Rakibrans be Tenzin Tele, loss, Ye Kibrans be Tenzin Jirangul, she has top shell.
It is very clearly stated in the Bodhisattva literatures that it's because of our own self-centeredness, selfishness and self-cherishing attitude, in Tibetan called Rang Chenjin, cherishing oneself like crazy, anything. And because of this cherishing attitude, we do a lot of negative things. So in order to make the self happy, we go to the extent of doing the things which may harm others or do harm others, and we don't care. So as we create negative karmic actions under the influence of self-cherishing attitude, selfishness, self-centeredness, then what do we get in return, if you ask, is the problems and pains, because negative karmic actions never ever bring goodness in life. So now if we want to change our life around, so to speak, if we want to really completely transform ourselves, we really want happiness, peace, and goodness in life, then we need to bring about inner transformation or changes within ourselves. Now we need to let go that cherishing attitude, self-cherishing attitude, and replace it by the attitude of cherishing others. We should learn to cherish others, love others, care for others, and be altruistic. So these attitudes, the noble thought of cherishing others, it is the source of happiness.
And again, never show Senji again say at them. Senji against North Korea. Tahana Yachi, Senji again at that, Loim Shabata. Tandu Samalo, Jagzin Shabata, to Samalo, Ranki, Yabonia, Rank Cheto, and the yin che to Seni, giving lay sign good was, sometimes.
If we all take time and then, consider our actions in everyday life, or a lot of the actions we have performed in life, find out how at the deep down, we are grounded in our self-cherishing attitude, because self is the most important. It is, more important than anything else. And so we cherish it like anything. So in order to fulfill the needs and the interests of the self, then we go to the extent of doing the things which involve a lot of negativity. So, okay, if it means that the self should be happy, then we go and kill somebody else, another human being or another animal or whatever it is. Okay, in order to make oneself happy, we go and steal things from others. And in order to make ourselves happy, we indulge in sexual misconduct, adultery. And in order to make us happy, we lie and cheat and deceive and, do all sort of things. So basically, deep down, what really makes us do all those negative things is because of that self-centeredness and self-cherishing attitude. Because self is the most important thing in our world system, right? In our, mentality world system. And so that is, as the self-cherishing attitude dominates us, so actions we perform are all geared towards making it happy, So that's our problem.
Sonsa Raki Prince begins in Teta, took in a took Dombo Savan with Chagaris. So they think about the tap point that Tavi Shagos.
Of course, we have many forms of delusion or negative emotions inside our mind, but at the really root level, bottom, deepest level, so the root delusion is the self-cherishing attitude. So we need to make efforts to uproot it, to get rid of from our system.
Zambulinki, Sinamita, Senji Tamchile, Rakiban the begins to Zan Mavi Chavina, Tuba Zani Yungum, name Yungumarkanga, Medibi, the Zani Yungumaris, Ma Yungumaris, Debu Yunguris, Hide Yunguris.
I'm hypothetically speaking, because we don't have that situation. Let's assume that everybody in our world or the universe does not have self-cherishing attitude. but everybody has this altruistic attitude, then we will not have all these problems that we do have in our world. Killing each other, the wars, and all kinds of sicknesses, all kinds of, negative actions that we witness in our world will not be there.
So, that's Sanji Combato Chung the Lam Temple, a Hik Ting Jole, Mendibrizan Yungu, Kanisa Kunzuka, and Tenzuku Julia, and Rank given the begins in Zaun Yama, the Dodge Harris.
Well, and why do enlightened beings, or for that matter, you see, those who are on a very high level of realization, why don't they suffer like us? It's because they do not have the self-centeredness that we do. Okay, they have let go. They have changed their attitude. So that brought about that inner transformation. So as a result, so they do not encounter a lot of the problems and difficulties that we face in our life.
Mende beri tangi the day, and the new but the neighbor so tangi that train mavish. Train, and then Bibo the Jibota, Sanji Compatoyaka, Santona, Tar Yen Japan begins in the Ranjul Shaving, D ton, Lam D ton, any Maran Sultan. That do thought in the devil the Jibo at the Sanji Compatoris.
So if we consider complete enlightenment as our ultimate spiritual goal, in other words, we want to be completely enlightened beings, and by definition, completely enlightened meaning that we do not have any kind of negative emotions or delusions, deluded states of mind. They are all gone for good and ever. But we have all the, the positive qualities that exist, ontologically speaking. And so if you do want to be in that kind of a state, then what we really need to do is learn to cultivate the altruistic attitude of cherishing others, so that we are able to work with our own mind and get rid of all the delusions within our own mind. Because our goal is to separate our mind completely from delusions, from negative emotions. So as we learn to do that, as we go through this process of getting rid of delusions, we find peace, happiness, more happiness, and that's how we find ourselves progressing towards our ultimate spiritual destination, which is Buddhahood or complete enlightened state.
That any Pangan, Papangu, so language, any Pangan, Nate, and some rank Shegu Kiramato, me yellow so Sherosin pay, Goeti Mavericks, Milipe, Sherosini, Gyeltsen Mavericks.
So spirituality consists of a spiritual path that we want to follow, or it also involves all kinds of practices, that will help us to grow spiritually. So we need to educate ourselves about spiritual practice and spirituality. But once we learn about the essential points of spirituality and practice, then we are the ones who need to cultivate spirituality in our mind. We are the ones who need to do the practice. We cannot entrust in others to do the practice for us. We cannot, assign others like, can you do that for me? Okay, because I'm kind of busy. It doesn't work that way. You see, one has to do the practice oneself.
That's Shambata. That do Junding around Tamba, the Saint Kill maybe. And Shambata, and Niji Gomtuna, that he Kiraki Chamburis. And the nature Gombina, single never she acted the Congress. Single never machine, and the Pemba Drew, they an intribute that around me and 2000 devil the Young.
So we emphasize a lot, to cultivate love and compassion in our everyday life. To the extent we cultivate love and compassion in our life, we find ourselves not doing anything that is harmful and hurting others. Because when you love someone and when you really feel compassion for someone, these attitudes, stop us from harming others. Yeah, so as we cultivate love and compassion and don't harm others, but we do things which are helpful to others. So due to all these factors, love, compassion, the positive actions we do, that we find the peace, happiness, and the good things that we are seeking in our life.
That's thinking in those in June, Ranga and Kadu Senji Ying, then in the change tone something jammers. Could you have it? Some repair, so any could you have any? You think on something.
Also, in our everyday life, we should learn to look at everybody, all sentient beings, from positive perspective and angle. Do not try to look at others from the wrong angle or try to find faults in others. So that when we see good things in others, when we look from, so to speak, a right angle, a positive angle, then we do find goodness in others, and that helps us to respect other people and other sentient beings. So that's my prelude for all of us, including myself, before I go back to the text, which is called Miscellaneous Collection of Kadampa Geshes Advices. So going back to where we left off last week, so Atisha was once again requested to give, so to speak, his parting instruction, because he was planning to go back to India, and so the Tibetan king Palama Changjube requested him for one more teaching. Although Atisha said, I have given everything, that should be enough, but he said, no, just please one more time. And so Atisha, talked about 3 key points, and I hope you remember them. So take a moment to reflect on those points.
That's something.
Of course, if you're new here today, right, then of course there's nothing to reflect on. You didn't hear what the 3 points were,
Ane Sanjay Matoji Pada, Ane do Teremizon, Sanjay Matoji Pala, Ane Socianity, that giving him Tengres, Kanasumas.
So the first key point, Atisha is a great Indian master who visited Tibet in the 11th century, by the way, for the new people, in the footnote. And he said, until you reach complete enlightened state, that means you yourself become a Buddha, you need to cultivate a guru, lama, Tibetan word is, or spiritual mentor or guide. And then Atisha also said you should cultivate Shinyin Tamba, means sublime or authentic spiritual guru. Not like anybody who's called guru or claim to be guru, but authentic or sublime guru, lama, meaning that who can really show you, teach you the complete structure of the path, unmistakably. The complete structure of the path that leads to the where you want to go, complete enlightened state. So you need to rely upon that kind of spiritual teacher. So those of you who have received the Lamrim teachings, teaching on the stages of path enlightenment, and so now you need to bring from that Lamrim teaching here the benefits of cultivating spiritual guru, or proper relationship with spiritual guru, and the disadvantages of not cultivating spiritual guru, and the disadvantages of wrongly cultivating spiritual guru, or you make some terrible mistakes along the way. So now those are the relevant points here which you need to bring from Lamrim teaching to sort of augment the statement being made here.
And
then the second point is
I forgot what is that.
So what was the second point? The second point Adisha made was until you realize what we call realities or ultimate nature, you need to get guru's instruction continuously.
최 탐지제 니루 탈도바지 마도 받을 송송이다. 다가지 니루 도면 돈이 도바선 송문도스. 최 탐지 니루 탈도바. 마도지 받 아니 표준식으로서. 나송 가능성스.
So what does this mean? Until you realize the nilu, which we could translate as ultimate nature or reality, one need to continuously listen to the instructions or the teachings of the gurus. Here, the ultimate nature does not simply refer to the realization of emptiness, which we usually consider as the ultimate nature of phenomena, right? Because emptiness, what does it mean? It means the way in which everything actually exists. It is the final mode of the existence of things or phenomena. Okay? But here it doesn't mean that. It means more than that. What it really means is until you realize everything that is there to be realized about phenomena. Okay, so that's more than just realizing emptiness. So basically what this means is not only we listen to or receive teachings or the instructions on ultimate nature, but we also need to contemplate the meaning of the teachings. We need to meditate on. Remember, we always emphasize the need to bring these three things together: listening to teaching, contemplation, and meditation. So we need to adopt that threefold approach, to engage in the spirituality. So what I just said is actually comes in the third key point Adisha made. He said, it's not just enough to understand dharma, because you got to put it into practice, right? So that's why it's not enough to have dharma education or, traditionally speaking, listening to teaching, but we need to contemplate the meaning. We need to meditate on the ascertained meaning of the teaching. So that's where the practice comes into play. So what can we take away from this is, if we really want the results, we can sort of I want the outcome, I want to gain something out of spirituality. Well, then here it says it's not enough to know about dharma. It's not enough to recite the dharma or do dharma chanting or do prayers. It's not enough just to recite the dharma text. That's not enough. So what we really need to do is we need to do contemplation, samadhi, we need to do meditation. Okay, so that's why often we talk about the development of three types of wisdom. Wisdom that arises from listening to teaching, or wisdom that comes from education, to use a modern word. Then the wisdom that arises from the contemplation, which is the higher level. Not only you know something intellectually, but you deeply think about the matter. Right? So there's a wisdom arising from contemplation. Then you go higher up, which gives to the wisdom arising through meditation practice. Now you start to gain realizations. So without practice, there's no meditation. Okay, so that's why it's really important for us to integrate those three things. Listening, contemplation, and meditation.
Tati, ane Hindu siya tang ma dang kayi san ma jangba dang siya ni tanda zan ma siya ni the dang ni. Ta pemba ji the dang be pemba ji yungu re ti yena jumde the tamba siya ba lang ma ka dang ju ma te tanda siya ba siya ni gom jagu re.
So I just want to remind once again here, as I often do, that some people might get into this mode of thinking that well, if I recite all kinds of mantras, because they're supposed to be very powerful and kind of a mystic, and so then that will do it. Then I will be evolved spiritually higher and higher. Well, I do not mean to undermine the mantra recitation, its importance. Well, there's some benefit if you recite mantras, but in order to get the real benefit of the mantra recitation is we have to understand what the mantras mean. What is the meaning of the things you are saying, and then you need to meditate and cultivate insight into those meaning of the mantras.
Tati Giju amar tati ali di danda kim karja George Pandey adi ya me ka number tunzu ta pe mesiya ta lanrang ki nang ki chamal tin nan tek dibaki ka nang go re soncha inde ani chi tunzu ma je ba she danda ta din yo san su chen be so si seng tol ma dik tu ne ya ko.
So we must all really sort of basically memorize what Adisha's key points are. So basically he is giving everything in outline form, and of course, he based everything on the Lamrim teachings, but now he's synthesizing everything and basically fleshing out, you might say highlighting what are the key points, and it's important for us to really have them in our mind.
Tati nesia de sikhe bazan digi amartina sikhe don't call a pain with the rest. See the social animals in my song, but see the magina, then the Tony and that day sometimes in rest.
Well, of course, it is important for us to remember the words or the statements or the sentences, because we do need to rely on words and the sentence to form the meaning and the concept, right? And so the words and the statements are more like the reminder that will help us to remember, to reflect upon what the actual meaning is.
Ming Mambo Jindo was in Ransol. The Ming choosing your retaganations dunk me. Ming Mambo to do sit down in this year. Could turn that quiet cheddar work, don't go with cheddar was.
All kinds of terms and the words and the categories and the divisions we create in any field, including dharma, is basically for us to be able to capture certain concepts.
But introduction, that's the way
great Indian master Acharya Dharmakirti said that the use of the terms and the languages is to be able to get at the meaning behind the words and the statement. So now we will continue with the key points that Adisha is laying out. So I will explain a few more, and so I'll request you to pay good attention, because next week I might ask you again.
Oh yeah. Dan this on what that similar nepes rang similar nepe yultans past things. Rang similar. That's same nurse here. Rang single taller. Any McGill lay Sayak, any some of the Yunyak that Jane would do na. Tell us the Tarrant Patans. So never say Jamaris.
Next, Adisha says that one should keep at distance, literally translating, objects which are harmful to one's mind. So meaning that, there are those objective conditions or objects of the factors. If those things are going to make us think negatively, or have negative experience of emotion and so forth, then we should keep those things at a distance. Stay away, just from them.
I think Namjin Journal song is the Chashi Yutan, Shedang Shivi Yutan, and then Chazo Shivi Yu, Tenzu Yorwas, Tenzu the Pat Junction Chain, Treats Mavichin Shagulas.
Great Indian master Acharya Vasubandhu, in his Treasury of Knowledge or Abhidhamma Kosh, talks about things like how we need to stay away from objects which could produce all forms of delusions in our mind. And as Geshe was trying to remember from the text, he says, we should keep at distance objects which could give rise to attachment, lust, grasping in our mind. We should keep away from objects which could make us angry, go like an upset and hate like anything. We should keep ourselves away from objects which will make us jealous and envious of things and others.
So that teaching. Young Tar sings it into that as you are. But Rimbushia Mato, Dili any piggy Karasegurta. Shedan that it and she jammaris.
So what does it mean? Let's keep those objects at distance. Does not mean that we should now cultivate some kind of a negative attitude and perception, to this objects like, okay, I hate those objects. Not that. Just keep distance. Just not like now we started to hate the objects of attachment, objects of the hatred and everything. That is defeating the purpose. Just keep them at a distance. Just it has to be like we have no involvement, nothing to do with those objects.
Longba di longba do so chimbi na ko longba te patharan tang yore do yorte ko teli ani dedu ko sam ke khomundu was yadu kan sam khomundu was.
Now it is like sometimes when we keep the objects at a distance, then we do not have any involvement with them, so we don't have any good and bad feelings or related with those objects. It's just like we travel away from a certain country or places, right? As we move to another different places, then those places are gone away, and sometimes we really don't have any good or bad feeling about those places we have been already.
No, that disundo. That things taking taki. That give a peser dus. Do you thought on any rank any gay victims of Pesagata yet with degores?
So Adisha says that literally keep at distance the objects which are harmful to your mind and always stay near those objects of being in the environment location where your positive actions will flourish. So that means keep closer to the objects which will help you to do positive things, or be even in an environment or a situation where your practice or the virtues flourish.
So that's the opposite. Tayanti, some of the things do was. Toronto, any legacy said, and talk about 2,000 young Shondro, the legacy is a yitik shit. Shavin, and it, Tilla any degree. Rang any similar, Nayak any.
So now you might ask this question, right? Okay, so what about my workplace? I need to go to work, right? And so maybe sometimes my workplace is the problem where I have, that's where something is harming my mind. I'm not happy, or I'm getting weird or whatever it is. So what do we do now?
Tati inki mini tasung seate inki mini jarung pandog maras sengutun tasung jaris.
So in that sense, here is again we are talking about our way of thinking. How we can mentally keep the things at distance, not necessarily physically. It doesn't mean okay now you should not go to work anymore. Well, physically you're going to be there. You are just in the workplace or at it or whatever it is. But mentally you can still keep things at a distance which are harmful to your mind. But then also, like when you kind of do this practice, like you're practicing to keep the things which harm your mind or, at a distance, that does not mean now you have to keep silence at the workplace and not to communicate with anyone. It's like, I'm at a distance of all this thing. Just be normal. You can communicate to your friends and co-workers.
Legacy done that kind of KGK Chogori say in a rank safety Tony Pe, that pattern done is great.
Of course, you need to socialize with your co-workers or the friends. You need to talk with them about your work or the tasks, you're involved with, anything you get things done. But in your mind, you can, keep the things at distance which are, harmful to your mind.
Imagine that covers around the same Naya Katani, combating and the show they go and they cover us.
Otherwise it would be very difficult, right? Sometimes we are caught in a situation we don't have much choice, physically. Just, we are either locked in or we are right there or whatever it is. And so it seems like we have no freedom at all, to think the way we want. So here, we are talking about the mind training, certain kind of attitude that we can develop inside.
In this chapter, the part similar, that rank any gave short any payungares.
So you keep the objects which are harmful to the mind at a distance, mentally, more so. And then we try to stay closer to those objects or in an environment which really facilitate or flourish our virtues. Well, then we could make a good progress spiritually.
That in the way, don't that sell a nebe yul tang ta sing stick. And it thought to give a peser dose.
So that's the new key point. We're continuing with Adisha's key point instruction. So it says, stay away, keep at distance objects harmful to the mind, and stay closer to where your virtues flourish.
That Temba Maso Padus. Temba Maso Passi rang semla, Temba Maso Passi. Temba Toba say at the rang semde, Tamayoaki. Migi Shol Mayoaki, Mayo Patsigar. Temba Maso Pardu. And then Dunzi could never rest sometimes.
And the next point, Adisha says, first let me literally translate what he said. He said, until you gain stability, hustle and bustle could be harmful to you, and so you should, cultivate solitude or be in a solitude. Okay, now what does the stability mean here? The stability has to do with our state of mind. Okay, so once we gain the stability of the mind, meaning that we are not easily distracted by negativities, not attracted by them, we have that stability of the mind, then it's different. Maybe hustle and bustle around us may not harm us. But until then, all those hustle and bustle things, busyness, happening around us could be harmful to us.
Don't just say at the Niyores. Same good than same than
the Tibetan term dunzi, which could literally be translated as busyness, not business, okay, or hustle and bustle, as I said, it could be understood in two different ways.
Hustle is bustle is. Funny, you see. Hustle is bustle. Okay. So that same the courage same Nando member shagures. Number top of Mambo Yunga Chesa, Majin good in Mambo Train Drama, to never send it. Same the Nando member shagures.
So one way of understanding, isolating from busyness or hustle and bustle is that to do it mentally. So that means we should not entertain all kinds of thoughts in our mind, what we call the discursive thoughts. We are churning out all kinds of ideas and thoughts and, just going crazy in our mind. Okay, so that is being very busy, inside. So we need to isolate ourselves, our mind from that kind of busyness.
Okay. Then, same nanto tata lun denzi sedi chani ta chonso mambo sheni dancing jason de deta ki biskol ta sen de deta ta ka party tonya zatani mambo sheni tenda eme mambo she pe te sheba telta lun denzi ta lun denzi.
And another understanding of isolating from busyness or hustle and bustle is in terms of like a physical isolation, where, as you heard Geshe use some of the English words like, if we are one of those like a party animals, need to go to every party that exists or every dance and every theatrical performances. Our body is very busy because we're always in the crowd. We're always with, so that's being very busy physically in a, physical busyness. It really is a hustle and bustle, isn't it? So we need to isolate, ourselves physically from that kind of a busyness.
Oh yeah, that the any rank children no younger thing impote. Same nanto down lun zing impote rank same children no younger.
So being physically busy like that kind of a physical busyness or hustle and bustle and mental hustle and bustle, those are detrimental to spiritual development. Okay, if we are busy like that physically and mentally, then, as we can see, how do we cultivate spirituality?
No, English. That are when be not two things. When but songs, not to go that, when be not two things, that solitary to look at that, but is Wimbashin. Wimbas is only part tartan the town. And John Johnson and Madebishin, Teleparantan, Susupe, Natrogan and that Kevin in a Tachapunan day in a Karina, Lucy Deg rest.
So he says, well, then, you should cultivate, be in a solitude, in a forest, in a solitary forest, or in a deep forest, where you find a solitude, so do your practice there. So solitude, the Tibetan word Vemba, which is translated solitude, the understanding is a place that's peaceful, far away from towns and cities, that's the understanding of a solitude.
Mato when you don't see in a social sim do down lun to the embassy in social non debbie in a day embassy.
So what I just said is a kind of a generic understanding of the explanation of the statement. What it means, like go into a forest, find a solitude, and do your practice there. Okay, but but we can also find solitude where we are. If we physically isolate ourselves from the crowds, being in our own nice place, home, okay, and mentally isolate ourselves from discursive thoughts and busy thinking about in anything that goes under the blue sky, then we could still be in a solitude.
Yeah, sometimes. Because so humanity change pe sukameta to deje similar material mangbo chongse na ba change chongje ya ta ti de sa no mangbo tang de na ane de rang ke semte nam to wen gu ya ma res just when be ne de gu ya ma res.
I mean, it's possible that somebody might have the luxury or whatever conditions to go into the deep forest, stay in a solitude. Looks like you're really far away. You're physically isolated from hustle and bustle kind of life, and which seems everybody's really great. But mentally, is thinking about what everybody else is doing in the cities and the towns. Like so busy, I'm counting that. So that really doesn't work at all, right? So the mind has become very discursive and very, hustle and bustle.
Sometimes, nambi ki yoris.
No.
Duba yorwa. Duba la ani ta du thamji chamba singita. Duba jabo ki jabo ka ani tele Quran say ni shumres. Du thamji chamba se ta ma kosa tembo ta ki ta ming chamba chi shom ta. Ta ya duba kuli se ni ya.
No.
Nanji be ta thama ba rangi be chuma rangi se de ga.
No.
Ina Quran taw tembo ki wi cha de.
No.
There's a alidesum.
Let me tell you a story to kind of substantiate my point here. This is a story about these two personalities, Bhutanese, Bhutan kingdom. Once there was somebody who was called Duk Thamjay Khyentse, very well known. Thamjay Khyentse means one who knows everything, omniscient one. and was very highly regarded in Bhutan, because almost like, king even respected that person. Then there was this another one who was more like
his brother.
His brother is called Drupa Kunle. I think you have to excuse me. Somewhere there's should be translated called the divine madman. Drupa Kunle. So he was highly realized, but he looked so ordinary and humble and down to earth. Pretty much like if you allow me, just like street person, but highly realized. Okay.
And any Quran that now lives any Drupa Kunle. That nye digar, joke choba nye, gondang hava nye, they be the shedigar. The corn do Tangish by Yashoking Havana Yalanji into the Nash in those yogurt. Ne Kuranga, that Amati were Kuni, Amadigi, Ruba Kunil, the Churat and doing ye in beds, Churan Pinga Yalan, Taran Shokin, Gom Jay, Hindu, you do us. Churayalan, as it a child with the means. Human.
And you got same,
you got that you were a
so they were brothers, the Druk Thamse Kemba and the Drupa Kunle. So what Drupa Kunle was found doing all the time was he would go to bed real early, then he won't get up, he will get up late, very late, during the day. He was practically just sleeping, day and night. Whereas his brother, he would get up really early in the morning, he would do his meditation, chanting prayer. And so their mom once kind of told Drupa Kunle, aren't you ashamed of yourself? Like, you are just sleeping like anything. Look at your brother who gets up early morning, do the meditation, do the chanting and everything. You're sleeping all the time.
Then, Quran that Drupa Kunle amal sukhibri. Amal. Ne Pinga and Gom to the Jake in the Chigman do that, Tom Judy those. Come by genically those.
And then Drupa Kunle told his mom, Mom, you want to know the truth? I don't think my brother was really meditating. He was very busy going to the markets and, thinking about what materials to buy, build a house and construct a building and all that. He wasn't really meditating.
Churang Pinga did is a carrest. Churang and Shoki Taran Shokin have on the Gomjin, Hindu not use almost. The Amen that is second of that. Carrest and Yahurit.
So then the mom went to the other son and said, you know what? I saw you got up really early morning as you always do this morning. You're doing your meditation and practice, Then I told Drupa Kunle, your brother, but he said you were not meditating. You were just busy going to the market and buying things, to build house. So what is that? What is going on?
Then he says, look, Quran Pinjak Sumatara rest, Ama. Tanga to what I shoki, Tom Chin, your judges on the cosmos, Combajas on the cosmos. So
then the other brother, Druk Thamse Chemba, he admitted to his mom, he said, I think Drupa Kunle was very right. This morning, I just, in my mind, I was very busy thinking about going to the market and, buying things to build a house. So.
That thing and the social those in the Chankana Yan Juni pay Zuput isolated same the Kabayans a Judina, Yapuya Martin and Chagres.
So the point we are making here that we should learn from here is, even if one, physically isolate from all the busyness and everything and stay very nicely and, in a meditation, but if the mind is so busy like that, then that's not good at all. See?
Sometimes that group meditation Yorba, children didn't say they were. Maybe keep it in the hotel. Current stop going, mere current does. She said the Kadir Zol Salman. The nation Choya Maris.
So it's like as Geshe was trying to demonstrate, like, you really try to sit in a very nice meditation posture, right? Some people really like that, But what we're really thinking about is, what do these other people around me think about me, do they really think I'm a good, meditator or not? So then it doesn't work, see? And I'm like, this is getting too long. When does this really finishes? This session is just like,
Sometimes they do cannot wait, so they do like that. Nothing never see. So the same Nanto went but same Nanto went but the Lundunzi went by Nibote, Kiraki Chimbris Canons was.
So what Adisha said was that it is very important for us to isolate our mind, from discursive thoughts, being busy churning out the thoughts, and we should physically isolate ourselves from the hustle and bustle kind of activities of life.
Ta wemba setele yang yin dos. Be ta ren bu ro ya ki da ta ren machine ko rang sem de da gut tamni. Be wemba ten yin dos.
So the Tibetan word Wemba, which literally means isolation, that could be understood in two ways, right? You could, physically move into isolation, right, in a solitude and quiet place, or you could be where you are, but you could still isolate yourself from busyness. See? So that is also Wemba. You are in a solitude. We could say that.
Balance. That jiran shu that's the ni re sa so. Da yang ji shu yin. Da ka re se ji bu de. Da ni sumba de sumba de. Nyomo shewe drop on us. Ta rang ju la ni nyomo she ya ka drop kan de ji ne de bang res.
Maybe I'll do one more. And then Adisha goes on to say, you should abandon, literally translating here, friends which generate delusions.
Kenju yin ke de song do wa cui ji man yi je le ni mo jun chang wan yin cui ji man yi bi je yi le xia ba cui ji man yi bi le xia ba de ane ni mo ju xie ya ke ju chang ge song zhe zong zhe de song zhe ane ni mo xie je sa ge yi zhuo de pa bang se.
So literally what is said here, he said, abandon friends giving rise to delusions. Now what that really means is, as the great Indian master Acharya Vasubandhu again states in his Treasure of Knowledge, and Geshe quoted the lines from his memory, he says that we need to, the friend here is understanding is that which really is a source of delusions. That is a friend which gives rise to delusion, so we need to get rid of that. What is that source? In the Treasure of Knowledge, he used the term called Tsulmin Yiche, inappropriate mental approach. Okay, Tsulmin Yiche. So when we have that inappropriate mental approach, thing, then that gives rise to delusions, deluded thoughts.
Give up China, degree of Macaris, Shanju, same going to Gomking, Shanju, Sand of Shankin, Sanji Tamjila, and it might be put at South Guru, so Sati, she's married.
So abandoned friends give rise to delusions does not mean anything to do with the sentient beings. Okay, now you feel like, okay, I cannot go with those sentient beings, give up sentient beings, as you heard Geshe say that. Because that would be totally against our Bodhisattva's attitude and practice. Because the Bodhisattva's attitude is to cherish all sentient beings, altruistically. So sentient beings are very precious. As a matter of fact, we have to learn to love and care for sentient beings just the way a mom cares so much for her only child. So we need to learn to love and care for sentient beings that much. So how can we really abandon sentient beings? Because that would be totally against Bodhisattva's attitude and practice.
You must say you drop bones and draw the pine the correct bonds in the Susuki, Julia Yamusiaki, Yi and the Bangur Mato, tell me be hingy down Shambat to the point member.
So what basically means like we should abandon the objects or the bases which give rise to delusions in our mind. Now in the case of the sentient beings, if they're acting as a as a basis or the object for delusions, then we have to keep at a distance. But in our heart, we still need to love them. We need to have compassion for them. We cannot give them up completely.
No, that can do it. That you must say draw bone last bones. That game pay draw thing. There's same songs. Ranjula and gave up hair draw chita, children, rang only to nature. And they gave up hair and it children until tanglers didn't drop a shit draw. But the dance is didn't draw on this. And they send songs and they that same masabas in any Karsegunda, Pajitemendo, same songs and
same assumption.
That same data any.
That eat this. And so this is the part of the same statement. He says, abandon friends giving rise to delusions, but cultivate virtuous friends which give rise to virtue, and you should trust them. So in other words, that we should cultivate the spiritual friends, the virtuous friends, as we hang out with them, that helps us to create more virtue. And so we should cultivate them and, trust dharma friends, in other words.
That they drink the youngest, Charan Tanda, drink youngest, some do cinema, years, some put some Congress.
So I only, gone through 3 more key points of Adisha, and so we should all, give thoughts to them.
That is any.
First, I want to announce that next Sunday I won't be here because I have to go to teach in Mexico. But Venerable Tenzin Dorjee, we call her Anila, who's behind me, she will be teaching here. Okay.
So that when you know the thinking cancel the that you amaris. Here you could the candidate Tagris.
I also want to clarify one thing here, that those of us who seek spirituality, we must not be too much, dependent on the person who is teaching the Dharma, sort of external considerations, what he or she look like or whatever. But what's really more important is what is being taught. Okay, so the teaching is more important than the teacher or the person.
Sometimes the true thinking any the Java the Rabbi Chogashi, Chugan Javashi, that in the any Chuyan. That in the man that you Yanda singing that Morina, and the young Kashi young Moyon of the Nishi Jamas.
The things that sometimes people have different attitudes and perceptions. Some people they somehow like to listen to teachings if the teachers are monastics or the monks and nuns, but if the teachers are lay people, then they don't feel like that's something important. But what's really important is the teaching that's being given, which we need to investigate. And if somebody is giving an authentic teaching, that's more important than what he or she look like or who he or she is. Or some other times people are maybe more comfortable with a particular gender teacher, and not with another kind of gender teacher. So, those things are, we need to think about. And in the Dharma, we talk about 4 types of reliances, and 4 types of things that we should not rely upon. And what are the 4 things we should rely upon? So there are 8 of them. One must not rely upon what we call. Don't rely on a person, but on the teaching. Don't rely on the sensory consciousnesses, but rely on mental consciousness. Don't rely on that which is interpretable meaning, but rely on that which is a definitive meaning. Okay? And then another one is don't rely on the words, but rely on the meaning. So those are the 4 types of reliance we talk about. So what I mean is, like, if a teenager has a very profound thing to say or meaningful thing to say, not necessarily profound, right? Then as Geshe was trying to say, we just bow down to that, teenager, and we have to listen.
Young type of thing is good. This is the thing around so gaming them, chocolate them, Pugu inching them in a sweet them in the pay. Bango, which is 2 young language.
So the young Thawa, if somebody has the perfect thing to teach us, authentic, then it doesn't matter, what gender, gender has nothing to do with it. It could be a man or a woman, it could be old or a young, it could be a teenager, it could be even a street person, homeless one. It has something really, a thing which is correct and authentic to say, then we got to listen.
Then the same Yana Yapoyers, in the country, Hema, Kanjita. Chede young tapaji sanji jomdi in my jubakita, the young tapaching about the Googles that take such embarrassed, sit down with the towers.
So, in the case of Buddha Dharma, Buddha's teaching, it has to be something that has, authentically transmitted and taught from Shakyamuni Buddha onward, right? If somebody can do that, authentic teaching, then it doesn't matter who he or she is,
Sometimes Nando Serengata, Kadina, Tarichampa Mari, and Yutavala, Shalo change and the Anila Yuvina, Chiranso, Yontoni, Yongo Takuni Apoers.
So sometimes I have to go to other places to teach, and if Venerable Tenzin Dorjee is here, I always ask her to replace me and teach. If you have fun time, you're able to come, so I would encourage you to come to the teachings.
Yes.
And if Anala is not here, sometimes if I have someone here visiting me and who I can trust, to teach, then I will have that person teach, so that you could come and listen to teaching. Catherine Brunner, 83 years old, is very sick and she is in hospital, and prayers have been requested, for her. No. No. Well, maybe I could say that this is the mother of Venerable monk Changchup Chöbel, John Bruno, probably you know him, and so his mom is very ill.
Yeah, very dangerous enemy, very difficult. So,当然从马路个等你，他第这边，像就这边个阿妈个这边，他等这个你那儿等他，家东蒙古人民那里有点是，等住从马路边。你来查呀当，你来查呢呀？你给你去对吧？这里他们讲的是。
Of course, we have got just one request in a name here, but we should also think about many others in a similar situation in any part of the world. There must be thousands and thousands, like her, and so we send our prayers and good wishes that they, hopefully they're able to recover from the sickness.
당아랑서 교육진이 기후 자올랐더니 아니 자기는 비빈 산지 때문에 뭐지 다시 그런데 내 봤다. 아니 때문에 비빈지 쉐브 자기는 비비 리스 마시비 아니 쉐부터 땡지 쉐부터 고지 개배 때문에 도지긴도 다 몇몇도 용왔다. 그 신경이 쇼 보면은 균이 잡아는 있는 거 봤다. 이게 감도 되긴도 뭐 특별히 좋다다 해니 등진을 좋다다 몇몇도 용와요.
Let us dedicate our collective merit for the flourishing of Dharma the source of benefits and happiness throughout the universe. May His Holiness the Dalai Lama and all other holy beings from different traditions live long and be successful in fulfilling their visions benefiting sentient beings. May spiritual communities throughout the world and spiritual practitioners from all traditions remain healthy, harmonious, and be successful in fulfilling their spiritual aspirations. May this and other world environments be free of all kinds of unwanted pains and problems, and may beings find peace, happiness, prosperity, and spirituality. In short, we dedicate our marriage, positive energy for all kind mother sentient beings to be free from the fears and dangers of two types of mental obscuration, and may we all reach complete enlightened state quickly.
Shanchu Semchu Ramboche, Maje Bana Shejurje, Sheba Nyamba Mebaton, Kone Kondo Pewarajo, Tony Tawa Ramboche, Maje Bana Shejurje, Sheba Nyamba Mebaton, Kone Kondo Pewarajo, Kare Rave Kor, Shinkamatera Pendan Dewa Malu Jumihane. Tenzin Dorjee, Shabe Sende Pado Tenju, Ye Sanje Beje Shoye, Meto Chama Rolenge Nide Jambo, Sanje Yendo Mede Muwaye, Rokunanda Kinlo Shebo, Sho Edam Guru Ren, Mandala Kane Adayame.
Okay, I'll share Tibetan culture. You don't have to prostrate today. You can say prostrations for Geshe Safe Return from Mexico.
Okay. See you Sunday. Okay, sir.